Hello and welcome to Maximise the Value of Your Content webinar. My name is Leah Crowley. I am here to make sure that everybody's having a good time, do a little bit of housekeeping. I will not be telling you how to maximise your value, your content in a valuable manner, because we have got two amazing experts here who will be doing a much better job than I ever could. We've got Lindsay Houston and Tom Ragg. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you, Leah.
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. Now, Lindsay, tell us a little bit about what we can expect today and a bit of your background.
So my background is I like to make things for people, and my experience is in marketing and production. So a content creator seems like the perfect fit for us. Today, maximise the value of your content. We talk to a lot of marketing professionals. So we would really like idea sharing. If you've got comments of your own, we're not just the experts, you're the experts too. So jump in with some comments and we can maximise the value of this webinar.
Look, I'm a narrative buff. I've worked in a lot of different gigs that have all been about critiquing, pulling apart story structure and learning how people respond really well to a good story. And used all that sort of knowledge from various gigs to get into advertising and strategy and sort of helping brands tell their story in a much more effective way.
Yeah, amazing. Well, we're going to try and cram a lot of info and hopefully stuff that you can take away and share and add and expand on over the next 45 minutes. But we will be going through different segments and we've got some fun little polls and whatnot, and they're all on Mentimeter. First off, though, what content works best for your business? So the different options here. Whoa, okay. We've got someone saying video straight away, which is absolutely amazing. Oh, some copy as well. All right. Video seems to be going gangbusters at this point in time. We'll, of course, jump back and forward from these as we go through the webinar. But how are you guys feeling, Lindsay and Tom, about that? So video seems to be what a lot of people really think works best for their business, content-wise.
It makes sense. It's a high value item.
Yeah.
So you're going to put a lot of investment in it.
And it's the best way to get a good buy-in from a viewer or someone you want to engage with things is you're engaging audio, video, they get in their brain thinking they're watching for a while. There's all sorts of positives to using a video well.
Measuring value. What does that mean, Lindsay?
So measuring value. So when you make a piece of content, how do you measure how good it is and what it means for people? And it's not just likes and follows. Hey, Tom.
That's right. Look, for some people, likes, follows, or for a long time in social media, that was the benchmark, the metric used for success. But it's kind of progressed past that now because you can buy that or game those systems, and the value isn't there. The value is with people that are engaged regularly and have brand affinity, and that you can, take on that story with you for a long time and have them invest in your brand.
Yeah. So it's a connection with your audience. That's probably the most valuable thing at the end of the day. It all comes down to a connection with people. That's what everybody wants.
That's right, especially if you're a smaller business and you don't have the budget to be investing in large scale campaigns or spending lots of money advertising to get many followers. It's a much better tactic to focus on having a genuine connection with a smaller group of potential customers.
And if you're going to make something, it's not about preaching to people. It's not about telling people your message. It's connection is a valuable word.
That's it. If they can look to you as someone that can help or can, always direct them in the right way or add benefit to their experience online.
Yeah, so understand who your audience is.
Very much so.
And keep it real. Don't be fake. You can tell when a post lacks sincerity.
Yeah, that's right. Look, the best way you can keep it real is if you're going to put a post out, take a minute and really look at it and think for how it's going to be perceived by the end user. Are they being bamboozled with too much jargon? Is it too copy heavy? Does it not humanize things? those are little tweaks that you can make that will really enhance the effectiveness and maximize the quality of the post that's going out.
Yep, and don't post something just because you think you should.
That's right. If people are jumping on social media, generally they're checking in on either what their friends have to say or they want to see some news or something like that that's relevant to their interests. So if you, as a brand, are posting something up, you're interrupting their conversation. So you want to make sure that whatever you're saying is worth saying. Otherwise, you're just making noise that's going to get lost in the void. And if you do that too many times, people unfollow you. So it can actually be detrimental to the work you put in before.
So you're starting conversations and you're sharing stories. Tom, you like the anatomy of a story. Why do audiences relate to a narrative?
Look, in Western culture, there's only really two stories. There's the idea that a man heads out on a journey or that a stranger comes to town. And really everything boils down to that. Joseph Campbell talked about the 12 steps of a hero's journey. Basically, humans need to impose order on the world around us. It's chaotic and our brains like the idea of there being narrative structure. There's a payoff for why things happen rather than just the reality, which is because things happen. And because of that, the media that we like to consume is always based around that sort of narrative payoff. We expect things to play out the way they are, or there's a narrative twist, but it also gives us enough convention that we still understand the conventions that are being played with in order to be broken. So if you're actually putting out stuff that you want people to engage with, you need to infuse some sort of narrative there. It needs to build. There's always got to be, that act 1, 2, the twist, and then act 3 structure, and people enjoy going on that journey. Things stay with you more, especially because our memories, the things that we retain, they're always based within story structure. The stuff that you remember, it's because it was something happening to you at that time, and you remember all the things around you. So it's kind of painting that mental picture. So the better you can do that for people with the information you're giving them of creating that mental picture that sticks in their mind, the more effective the content will be at sticking around.
And it's still applicable in business. It's still applicable to a case study or a customer story. This idea of a narrative, case study, what was the problem? What was the challenge? What was the opportunity? What's the solution? It's still sort of part of building a story. And
it's taking you through that structure that we expect of. We encountered a problem. We thought we'd found the solution. It wasn't quite right. We went back to the drawing board, worked harder. We found the true solution. Everyone succeeded. High fives all around. And that's 3-act structure straight there. Sometimes to do that with a video, all you need to do is take the information that you were going to share and have one talking head of a person saying of why they were surprised about the insights that you learned or something that occurred on the day. And it just humanizes things in such a way that it just creates that end of story feel good that something needs to cap it off.
Yeah. There's a scene that a lot of people want to have in their business, but just being able to have a realness sometimes really resonates with people.
Yeah, it makes it far more relatable and the viewer inserts themselves in that situation.
I've got another slide. This is probably one of my favorites. What's a time you've gained value unexpectedly?
Well, unexpected value is really interesting and important to cover, I think, because it's all sorts of things that you didn't think about. So you've got your message, your key point of your content to sell products, to promote a person or whatever you need to do. The unexpected value comes from the process. So like Leah was saying, with podcasts, you're networking in your industry. So you're meeting people and having conversations and being in a room with them for 40 minutes. And Leah and I know that we went to a networking event recently and spent 20 minutes in the toilet because it's not structured fun.
It's not structured fun. We can't do it.
Calls it. It's this structured networking that really promotes conversation rather than hiding in the toilets. So there's that kind of value of meeting people, and then a lot of people who come to do podcasts in our studio consider it to be their favorite time of the month or the week, because there's an extrinsic value in being able to come and share ideas and have conversations, and enjoy yourself, be a bit creative. And for example, for this webinar, we've spent a lot of time researching, and we are more well-versed now in value of content than we were before. We have a doc now that we can share with new people about processes and things. So
formalizing is a brilliant thing.
It's really good idea to identify what sub-value your content can bring you and lean into it. You know,
if nothing else, you will be, get skilled up in new stuff that's either relevant to your industry or will come around again later. There are things that we've done, podcast series that we've done, clients I've worked in the past that I've learned a whole bunch of stuff doing strategy for, walked away going, I don't know where I'm ever going to use that again. And then 6 years later at a dinner party, I become the most interesting man because I know stuff about zoo design or things that you at the time didn't realize that value, but is just so valuable in enriching yourself as a person.
We're going to have a lot of fun with our very next little segment here. It's one of my favorites, and it's one of Tom's favorite lines. Use every part of the buffalo, Tom. What on earth do you mean by that?
All right, so that's like an advertising staple saying, I guess, but it basically means that back in the day when we were tribes and we hunted, taking down a buffalo was a major job, and it required a bunch of people to work together to do. And if you're going to do that, put in all the effort, you need to make sure you use every part of the buffalo. So they'd skin it, make pelts, they'd use different bits for meats, you'd use everything. And that's the idea that we need to come up with when we're thinking of our content, is rather than just we're making a video, it's what else can we do around it while we're making this video? What other things can we be thinking of to use this further down the track, to use it smart, to just really wring every dollar that you're spending out of the project?
Yeah, so I have distinguished 5 types of content in the research for this, and this is going to help us figure out how we're going to divide things up. And those are visual, like a billboard.
Yes.
So and helping you decide what your favorite and more important ones are as well. So billboards or infographics or just a simple photo taken in your iPhone.
The beauty of the visual is that it's almost instantly perceivable. You know, you think about it, someone can engage with it in 2 seconds as they go past on a train, or 0.8 seconds as they scroll by on a phone.
It's been specifically picked as something that people can take in that second. Whereas a video, maybe they've got to sort of stop, slow down, watch the first 5 seconds to get to the point.
Yeah.
A visual does that very quickly. And then we've got audio visual, which is your video, which is, it's using every part of the buffalo in ways, because it is a powerful.
That's it. That's it. Engaging a lot more of the senses.
Yeah.
It requires a lot more buy-in, so the quality needs to be higher to get people to stick.
It's like the Zeus. Is Zeus the top god?
Yeah, of the Greeks.
It's the Zeus of content, I reckon.
Sure, that's Odin for you Norse heads out there.
Then we got audio, Leah's favourite.
Yeah, that's mine. That's my pick.
Where do you listen to podcasts, Leah?
In the car. I like to listen to it also whilst I'm cooking, like chopping up 1,000 vegetables to put in a vegetable soup or something. It means that your hands can be busy, your eyes don't have to watch anything, because I've got to watch where I'm putting the knife. I'm still managing to consume information and media and whatnot, or gardening as well.
Sure.
Well,
you like to do it when you're cooking, don't you?
Yeah. Look, it's the beauty of a podcast is it's kind of the opposite of a video. A video you put on social media and you're inserting yourself into someone else's time, whereas a podcast is much more of a pull rather than a push. If you engage someone with the podcast once and they enjoy it, they subscribe, then all of a sudden it's served to them and you are becoming part of their weekly routine.
Yeah. And it's interesting going through this. imagining where people are as they're doing these things. Hey, the fourth one is reading. You like to read?
I like to read.
Where do you read? What,
everywhere?
Everywhere, like
Everywhere,
Mr.
except when I'm
305.
driving. Yes, except when I'm driving. No, I will generally read more than I will engage with. We have a tiny baby at home, and so watching with sound is not an easy thing to do. So I will watch plenty of videos with the captions on, but more often than not, I will expand a long copy piece, and I like to read a long thing. I read an EDM, something like that.
Yeah.
Give me the information that. Look, the beauty of copy or writing is that someone reading it determines the speed that they're taking that information in.
Yeah.
And if you want to go the next level above that, comic books engage visuals as well, and the borders mean that people determine the speed that time progresses. But that's what copy is beautiful for. No matter how fast someone reads, they will read at the speed they are comfortable with, and they'll take that information in the way they've already trained their brain to do.
And again, sometimes you just want to read. For example, when we felt we needed to go to antenatal classes.
Yes.
When we got there, we realised it just needed to be a PDF.
But it's funny that you mention antenatal classes because you identified 4, did you?
Oh, yeah.
There's one more that we should talk about, which is experiential. I mentioned it very briefly earlier, but experiential is the idea of giving someone a live, engaging experience. So it's whether that's, if you are a podcast host and people will listen to you regularly, maybe it's you putting on a podcast event and your listeners can come along, they meet each other, they watch a live recording of the event, all sorts of different ways with that. But it could be a different way of maybe you are a brand and you're sponsoring a zoo exhibit and you look for ways that you can incorporate into their immersion of enhancing the storytelling of someone being transported to a Balinese beach village or whatever the zoo is looking to achieve. Experiential is about engaging far more of the senses around. You might use smell, you will use audio, but it's
even if it's just meeting for a coffee.
Yeah,
it's especially in post-COVID, we appreciate that heaps. Like being able to do
face-to-face real connection.
RL in real life. Yeah. So it's thinking about what people consume, where people consume, how people consume, and then thinking about, okay, well, I've made a podcast. What do I do about the people in my audience who like reading, who don't want to listen to it, who just can't get their heads around podcasts? Is there an option for them? Or I got my video. What about people who don't want to listen to videos when they're pretending to work in the office or something? Like you got to give them a reading option. Like make sure you put your transcript on there. So it's not just about carving it up. It's about thinking about different types of people and how they want to.
Yeah, if you want to maximize the potential audience you've got engaging with your piece, you need to think about that piece from how can I serve that in so many different ways to be appropriate for the right people.
Transcribing it is not only good for the people who like to read, but it's good for people who are maybe hearing impaired and need to be able to read it. Or it is good for your SEO if you put it on your website and you've just done a podcast about the core functions of your business and it is filled with all the SEO, North Sydney, podcast, studio, video, content creator, like all those words are going to be in this webinar. We put that as a blog on our website.
Yeah. And you can just strip out the audio and use, transcribe it. And then you've got fantastic quotes to use on social media or for publishing on your website or for using in your other collateral.
Obviously, we have to point out as well that there are constraints. We're not going to content shame you. You can't do everything all at once. But just be aware of how different people consume and how the people who want to read or find out about the message that you're sharing, how they're likely to enjoy that customer experience.
I mean, if you can't, look, as Lynn says, not everyone can do everything, but if you can identify maybe 2 of those little things that we were talking about, those extra things to try, if you get no reaction from either of them, then try different ones the next time. But it's a really good way to evolve and see what extra things you can add in there. And you'd be surprised what sort of stuff does respond.
So I'd love to find out what people's favourite content.
Yeah. Let's have a look. What's your favourite way to consume media? Got visual seems to be coming out on top. Audio-visual experience, listening, and reading. Tom, yours is down the bottom and mine's second lowest. Does that mean that we need to start voting more? No?
No, I think it just means we're the least busy people.
Okay.
It's hard to choose. I like that you've done it, so you do it first, second, third. Nice, it's really hard to choose though, isn't it?
Experience seems to be quite popular as well,
Yeah, I think everyone misses experience. It's like a long lost friend.
Yeah.
I'm putting that in number one.
All right.
It always gets a really sexy budget as well.
Oh, the visual's still winning. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting watching it happening all live at once. And reading is still last, unfortunately, Tom.
That's all right. I'm aware of this.
Okay.
That's why it's
as long as you're
the
aware.
thing that requires the least investment of time.
And people who read are quietly just happy in their lives. They don't need to be popular. It's like Hufflepuff.
Not Hufflepuff. I've been through this.
So we're talking about different types of media, and then you've got the time of media. So you touched on it, like the pre-production teasers, for example. Listen to the insights Paul has on this upcoming webinar about blah blah.
Yeah,
blah.
we're excited to share with you the things that we learned.
Bloopers is a fun thing.
People like seeing the reality
Yeah.
and humanizing things. Like, they made some mess ups because everyone messes up.
And then, so it's good to have a diary of like, okay, so I'm making a video. I want to make a behind the scenes before. I want to make a post with a teaser. And then I'm going to have the main release of the video. And then afterwards, you've got more different time shifted content. So you can have a short clip on a newsletter. So you're using different platforms as well. Lots of scheduling and making sure you've got it all mapped out in the diary, I think.
Yeah. You want to
maximize it.
That's it. You want to get the biggest bang for your buck. And part of that might be that you've already got insights around your best posting time on various socials. Because obviously if you want to put something that's copy heavy or a video for LinkedIn, generally trying to time it maybe just before morning tea time is pretty good because people like to take a break and that's when they check their things. It's identifying when it's going to land best with your audience. So it's a little bit of thinking on that side of things.
Yeah.
But it's also like, okay, so we want to put the video out on Friday. We're going to have a few posts beforehand, make sure maybe something on the Thursday saying, video's dropping tomorrow, get excited.
Yeah.
But then what are you going to do on Monday to remind people to check out that video or to get excited for the next one that you're going to be doing? Maybe you put up a post asking for some questions and things like that. So it's how can you continue that story further and rinse more content out of it?
Yeah.
You might decide that September 5th is Maximise Value Day and we can put that video out celebrating it with a nice hashtag.
And then even 2 years down the line, maybe you dust out an old blog and it's got a questionable paragraph in it or something that doesn't make sense anymore. You can still use that content, just rework it and republish it, make it something new.
Trim it down, put it on top of a graphic, bam, post.
So I just wanted to go through some time.
I'm glad we touched on that. Do you know what I want to touch on?
Yeah.
This next segment. I missed out on seeing the slide.
What a segue.
All right.
So no man is an island, as John Bon Jovi said. Hey.
Yeah.
It's John Donne or someone in the past, but I prefer the John Bon Jovi version. Tell us in the comments, have you shared content with someone or some place that has unexpected returns? What about you, Tom? Have you got a story?
Sure. So when I'll throw back to Ferrero times again because it's safe to talk about them. I looked after Tic Tac for a long time. Great brand. We did lots of fun games that were very throwaway, and a lot of them were guessing games. How many Tic Tacs are in the jar? That's how long ago I was working on social. There weren't even terms and conditions yet. I didn't need permits. Oh, good times. We had a photo on a Friday afternoon. There was a ton of Tic Tacs in a jar. Guess how many Tic Tacs are in this jar? Posted it up. By the time I left on the Friday afternoon, it was at about 3,000 entries. That's pretty standard. Overnight, it got picked up by some, I'll call them prize pig groups, but, competition groups that would share around competition links. And it went on one and then another and then another and then another. Anyway, by Monday morning, we were up somewhere around 56,000 entries, which was a whole lot more. Thankfully, I had said first person to post the correct answer. So all I had to do was just a bit of control F work. Because if I'd had to randomly pick someone, boy, oh boy, I would have not enjoyed that. But look, the unexpected network benefit of that is, your fans doing the work for you. Of course, Prize Pigs, not quite the fans you want, but fans nonetheless. But it's...
and helpful.
Well, it was 20 times the value of what we were getting organically.
Yeah.
And $0 investment to pull that off. And honestly, a photo that took 3 minutes to take.
No publicity is bad publicity. Hey,
That's it. So, and we only had that sort of connection with the prize groups because we'd put in the time before then of doing other competitions or things that were relevant to that sort of audience. So by the time we were putting that stuff out and doing it very casually and offhanded, they had already been trained to expect that from us. And when it's a $20,000 prize, people, it's like, oh, I'm not going to win that. But when you might win 12 packets of Tic Tacs, someone's like, yeah, I'll take 4 seconds to guess what's in that jar.
Yeah. You get what you give with your network, hey?
Big time.
So, and you always say something really interesting about nobody sets out to make a bad movie. It's the same with content. Nobody sets out to make rubbish content. Everyone's hopeful. Everyone's putting in what they can within their own constraints,
Yes, and look, part of that is because the more cooks there are, the different the meal ends up being at the end as opposed to what was intended. You think about some of the best YouTube creators, they're home alone by themselves. They're completely in control of their narrative, their look, their feel. Everything they're putting out and projecting is from their own creation, and they're very carefully managing that sort of stuff. The more you're interacting with other people, the looser that gets, and the more you're willing and understanding you've got to be that things will change, and it may not end up being exactly what you originally envisioned. But yeah, from my film critic days is when I learned that no one wants to make a bad movie. No one sets out to do that. There's just so many moving parts and potential pitfalls. Yeah. So
you within your network, you should be congratulating people for getting to having content.
Correct.
Well, so great video. It doesn't take much to.
It takes so little to share or like or, leave a brief comment on something. So, and it really genuinely does help. There's a phrase that's used on Facebook, which is to bump. And it also pops up on Reddit, different things. But bumping content is when something you've enjoyed, you feel that other people should see it. And leaving a comment will regenerate the algorithm so that it will serve it up again to potential audience. So sometimes great video, nice work. It means a lot to people, and it really does genuinely help, and they will remember that further down the track that you are someone who engages with their content. They will do likewise.
And also another way to utilize your network is think about the guests that you're having in your content. So do they have a package to take away with them, which is content of their own? So if you have a guest on the podcast, maybe you write out, or any guest I have on the podcast, I'm going to take a photo in the studio. I'm going to listen out for a quote that's good, and I'm going to subclip that and make that for another piece of content. And I'm going to ask them to share it on their page and maybe find one third-party page. Give them a challenge maybe do something else.
Depending on the person, you might even want to provide them with some copy for what that post should be. I enjoyed chatting with, and you put your own name, but on the podcast, really excited for you guys to see it. It comes out Friday. Hey, the podcast came out today. Here's the link.
Yeah.
Encouraging them and providing them with that content, the less barriers, hoops they've got to jump through to actually do it, the better.
And sending them home with nothing and no thought and no process is lost value, for sure. And it's an easy thing to do. It is easy to forget as well.
It is easy to
take
forget.
a picture. I'm sure we've forgotten already to take a picture today.
Look, the brilliant part of it is when you're inviting someone to come on your podcast, you're positioning them as an expert and you are putting your trust in them and you want to learn from them and that sort of stuff. So if you can provide them collateral afterwards to show that they were the expert that you engaged, you're fanning their ego and they will want to share that stuff because it makes them look good. It enhances their business profile. Look, the other way I always talk about it is anything you make, you can send to people because people are hungry for content. If they're a group that shares stuff out, then that's what they do. If there's an industry body, then you should be sharing that stuff because think of it like a magazine. The letters to the editor, most of those letters are trash, but they need to fill that space.
Yeah.
So whatever you're providing them is helping them out. They want to hear from you and your content because you are saving them time and money that they don't have to produce things to entertain their audience.
Yep.
It's win-win for everybody there.
Leah, any results on our latest questions?
The favorite way to consume media, it's still the experience, which I think is super interesting, very interesting.
And I think there's going to be a big rise in that in the next year or two. People are looking for experiences.
That's what Facebook has banked their entire company on.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So I think there's going to be events and things like getting extrinsic value. Extrinsic value is so important post-COVID. Everyone wants to feel good about themselves and enjoy their work. And
the festivals are music festivals are firing up again. Brands are going to be clamoring over each other to sponsor that and be seen as helping the world come back.
And investing in arts and where others maybe haven't, and trying to get that part of our culture back. Hey,
it's a very weird thing, but worldwide, everyone experienced a cultural event that lasted a lot longer than someone getting slapped at the Oscars or something, and it dominated every conversation for nearly 2 years.
Yeah,
and we've all gone through that together, and we all had a relatable, in some way, experience. Everyone had different ups and downs and this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's all led now that we have this shared perception of something that we can tap into very quickly. And I feel that that's where experiential is going to go towards, of like, we just had a lot of separation. Let's create events that bring people back together in a safe way. So like silent discos and that, I have a feeling that's going to
sure.
I just wanted to throw this quick Menti poll out. I thought was interesting. We might get some interesting ideas and results out of this one. What content really works for your business? So some businesses do case studies, client stories, promoting culture, idea sharing, project progress as well, which is always a good one because you're kind of saying, hey, remember, we're still working on this project. How cool is it that we've got this project that we're working on? Okay. We're having a look at some of the results so far. Case study and promoting culture is a pretty big one. You do notice a lot of promoting culture, and I guess, Tom, that's kind of like your feel-good thing. Am I right in thinking that that's like your feel-good post?
Very much so. It's feel-good. It's showing that people are human. That, it humanizes the brand, but it's also very low investment in relation to other stuff. So you've got your above-the-line communication that might be going out. Maybe you've got TVCs or all sorts of big brand promotion. Social media is a great place to peek behind the scenes and sort of show the people that work there. And people get upset really, really quickly on social media and want to race and give a bad review or say something bad. But if you're a human on the other end of it and they come to your page and I can't believe you did this, I want a refund instantly. And you can jump on there and be like, oh, yeah, we'd love to help you out with that. no worries at all. Then you've really maximized their value for the brand, because you completely, deflated that situation.
Yeah.
They've simmered down. They're not angry at faceless corporation anymore. Suddenly they feel bad because they were just giving lip to someone who's just clearly working on things like that. So that's
it is that balance, isn't it, that a lot of businesses have between being professional, facing public look, and being human.
Let's have a quick look back at what content really works for your business. Promoting culture, 26%. We've got a case study at 22, and client story is sitting right there, as well as idea sharing. So promoting culture is definitely something that really works well for so many different businesses. And
everyone loves that perception.
Everybody loves that perception, right? Which I think is super interesting. All right, so I think it's now time for the next segment, which is always one that I like, because whenever I think of this phrase, I think of it's a Lindsay phrase, right?
I do.
Can you copyright it? Can you copyright this?
I think it's because it's got a little bit of a rude word in it, so it appeals to my cheeky sense of humour.
That is too good. Yeah, a content arsenal. What on earth are you talking about?
I've been forbidden about talking about this.
What about rude words?
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Once I start.
So, content arsenal, organise well and keep forever.
Yeah.
Is my advice. Like we were saying before about how you can dig out a blog from 3 years ago and repurpose it, reuse it, take out a quote, whatever you need to do there. It's going to come in handy at some point.
You know how when you're going to spring clean, right? If you take 5 minutes to walk around the house first and plan things out and think about how you're going to attack it, you go about it so much more smoother. Whereas if you just try and get muck in, you're like, oh, it's going to take forever. That's the exact same mentality here.
Sure.
It's not fun to sit there and plan out what you're going to do. But if you take 5 minutes to do it, everything else just goes so much smoother. And it means that you can make a note to remind yourself in 3 months, the day before Turtle Day, that you've got that photo of the turtle saved away.
Yeah.
Rather than potentially forgetting things, or, oh, where'd I put that thing, and that sort of stuff. No, just take 5 minutes, set yourself a reminder in your phone, put a calendar date, whatever's in there. Just treat your future self to a little bit of a pat on the back and say, hey, your work today's sorted. Don't worry. I got this for you.
And then maybe also you could take a spreadsheet and write in, I don't know, for example, your frequently asked questions or all your products, and say that you want a video, a blog, an image, a podcast for all of those things. Tick them off and and then write down where they are on your driver or in
your mini driver
in your server.
Do you know what those things can be really good for?
Spreadsheets?
Well, that document you're talking about is a completely unexpected holiday handover document. So you get that ready and you suddenly find out that there's cheap trips to Cambodia, I don't know, Japan,
sure,
wherever you choose to go. You book them, you get out of there, and that handover doc's done.
Then you're not wrong.
It's all there.
We need to do it more, don't we? Document things for that reason.
I don't do it. That's not my job.
But if you want, if we're talking about maximizing.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
I write it all
down.
The
organisation.
It's all there. It's all there. Yes. Organisation pays off great. And I mean, it might be that you keep a notepad next to your bed and you jot things down all the time. Whatever way works for you. I personally use notes in my phone.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And the same with ideas. Document your ideas and keep them forever. Because how many films do you know started off with an idea and never came to fruition for 10?
Oh, things sit in development hell for years. But at the same time, great ideas take time to percolate. So that you might have there's no bad ideas. There's just ideas that aren't great yet. And so if you can tuck that note away and maybe just think about it from time to time, that might polish up to something special. It might be that the next time you're having an ideation session, you throw that out there as a whimsical, wouldn't it be funny if we did something like this? And someone else goes, by Jove, you've got it. That's a good feeling.
So your content arsenal is not just your finished stuff. It's your half-finished stuff. It's your ideas. It's you got some B-roll just in case.
What happens when you're too busy to do something flash? Compilation.
Yeah.
You know, there's all of this sort of thinking of how can we use that again in a different setting that gets people excited for
You're not
this.
wrong.
So-
Using all the offcuts of carrots and buffalo and onions.
You got to use the gizzards.
Mix it up in a stew.
See?
Sometimes you gotta have stew night.
And sometimes you got to be cheeky and
Can't
use
have
the
Uber
buffalo
Eats
horns.
all day.
Be like a little
Every
devil.
day.
Be a
Oh,
bit
right.
cheeky.
Yeah.
Use it all. And as I say, it's that little bit of planning beforehand. It's dedicating not even 5% of resource, honestly, towards, you know, if you're spending a big amount on a video, what we're talking about for this ancillary collateral, you might end up $500 total or just time. But the payoff, the length of benefits you get is just crazy.
All right, let's go to comments and questions. We won't keep you too long. If you have to go, thank you for coming this far. If you want to stay for some questions.
All right, let's get into the first question here. How valuable is it to reshare another company's content? For example, if we're both at the same event.
That is a great question. And it's not going to do much for you, is it, to reshare? You know, maybe it's better you comment on it. Maybe it's better you take a quote from it.
Well,
Maybe it's better.
There is a time when it is valuable, and that's when you've not captured content from that event yourself.
Yes.
So you can show that you were there. Or if that person has a stature that's much, or presence that's much
True.
larger than yours, then you can piggyback their audience by doing that. So in those cases, it is worth sharing. But generally, you're better off talking to that person and saying, would you mind if we used that content, but we rewrote it from our perspective of our engagement, the insights we learned from the day. We'd love to tag that we saw you on the day and interacted with you. We'll credit your photos, whatever it is. So creating your own post using their content, it's still going to give them views. It's still going to help their growth. And again, if you just talk to them about it, they're generally pretty reasonable.
But it's an afterthought, isn't it? So if you have forethought, you would have taken your own image or talked to you got your own perspective from going to that event. But then sometimes it is the other person's event.
Yeah, maybe they spend a bunch on a video.
Yeah. And maybe they're very tight on who shares what from their image. So,
but if they ask you specifically to share their content, then look at the value of it to your audience. And if it does match up, then rewrite that copy to make sure that, hey, we loved watching this video because we learned this, or we enjoyed doing this together, or somehow just make it relatable to your audience via your own lens.
Yeah. But again, does your audience want to view that content? Is an important question to ask. Any other questions?
Speaking of questions, we've tried asking for people to comment on our post to create conversation, but they often don't. Do you have any suggestions on what sort of posts will motivate people to reply? That's good. That's
a great
how
question.
on earth do you do that if you're trying to constantly
great questions.
throw out questions and comments, and they want comments? How do you go about that, guys?
Look, part of it is if you're going to include a call to action and you want people to engage that way, then you need to regularly include a call to action and expect people to engage that way. The groups, you think about Lad Bible or something like that, they've always got questions after their news article because they want people to engage. They're going to say something that's a little bit edgy. Which way do you feel they want people to engage? So you've got to think about that same way. Is there a divisive point you're making? Is there something you've learned and you want to see if people were already aware of that? Asking them in some way really helps. Polls used to be a much bigger thing on social, but they've really fallen off, which is a shame because they were a really good way to get people to engage very quickly with this sort of stuff and maybe leave a comment. The other way you can do it is incentivizing things. If you're doing an experiential event and let's say you've got T-shirts with your brand logo on them, maybe you give one of those T-shirts away to someone who comes up with the question that's used last for the next podcast episode or something like that. Finding a way that you can incentivize people to engage. We'll pick one of our followers that asks a great question and they'll be rewarded.
Maybe people just aren't ready to engage yet. maybe you've got to warm them up still. Maybe there is a bit of time from going from I'm struggling with engagement to getting engagement. There's a few processes that you need to sort of put in place there. You know, is your copy right? Is the content right? Are people interested? Are you talking to them from your I am selling this great product, or are you talking to them, you know, this product is something that is going to help that thing that you need help with? You know, like have a look at what you're posting and just decide if that's something that you would read and receive.
The other thing I'd say is that questions that ask about things that happened in the past or reaction or things that you as the answerer have no control over are much less likely to get engagement. If you ask someone about what they thought of that, they might tell you. But if you ask someone, what do you think we should do in 3 weeks with this? Or imagine if we created a new flavor of ice cream, what would you suggest? Then that instantly sparks someone's mind, because that's exciting. And that's about anticipation. That's about potential payoff. It's, again, that narrative structure, bringing it back. It's that idea of how would I finish this story? And people will want to comment on that.
So Tom's the king of the copy. So if you do need some help with copy, you can come to Tom. But then if you want to do it yourself, then, you know, go out there and have a look at posts that, you know, sometimes there's a post just like name this chocolate, and you really want to name that chocolate, and you're like, you know, and then you notice that there's like 10,000 comments on naming that chocolate or whatever it is. Name this cat, I don't know. You know, they've put something in that post that has made everyone's impulse to comment.
That's it.
What is it? You know, Tom knows.
Question: how do you make your content? How do you make sure your content is? I think it's supposed to be. How do you make sure your content is not too ad-like? So if you want to disguise it,
don't be an ad.
Oh, gosh.
Be a human.
Just humans.
So
ads are for the newspaper. Do you know, it's that really passive thing that you flick past while you're doing something else. That's an ad. Oh, there's information. You take that information in. If it's relevant for you, it sticks.
Yeah.
But that's not what social media is about. As I said before, people are engaging with their friends. They're learning about stories. It's stuff that gives an emotional reaction. And that's kind of the core difference between an ad, which is information, then there's educational, and then there's entertainment. It's that hierarchy of narrative and you know, the quality of information left behind with someone in what you're putting out there. It's pretty easy to give information. It's a bit more difficult to educate and get that information to stay and someone learns, but to get someone to be entertained.
Yeah. Like if you take the idea of a fast car, right? There's an ad. Look at this car. Look how good it is. Come and buy it, everyone. It's only this price. Or you can put it on Top Gear with James May and whoever else, and then it's content. And then everyone's like, oh, what's that car?
What's that car?
You know, it's not a direct ad.
Can I use an AR app and envision myself in the car, please?
Yeah. Why not?
Put myself in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Family.
All right, I think we've probably come to the end of this here webinar. There's so much that we could potentially answer and ask and all that kind of stuff.
Up.
Thank you very much. And thank you for watching. Connect with us on LinkedIn for more content marketing ideas.